Guys, Boxing Gossip here, recording this video on a Friday evening after work. This is actually my last video of the week. I'm signing off for the weekend. I'm away to run a marathon this week. So unfortunately I'm not going to be able to cover the Liam Smith, Liam Williams, the Flanagan-Petrov fights live, Lomachenko-Sosa. I'm going to try and catch up with the boxing on Monday, and I will of course post some post-fight reaction videos on Monday. But yeah, unfortunately no coverage during the week, during the weekend. I've got my priorities all wrong, obviously. I couldn't resist posting one final video before I signed off after the weigh-in today, particularly the weigh-in between Liam Williams and Liam Smith. Possibly also going to touch on the Daniel Dubois weigh-in later on in the video if I've got a second. Liam Smith versus Liam Williams. Unfortunately, Liam Smith fully justified his nickname Beefy today at the weigh-in. Liam Smith, who for my money is not a big light middleweight, weighed in heavy. He weighed in at approximately 11 stone 2 pounds. Now the MC said that he had 1 hour to make the weight. That was actually incorrect. He actually had 2 hours to make the weight as per the WBO rules. But we understand he didn't even attempt to make the weight. He gave up that opportunity, and Liam Smith is going to go into the fight having weighed in heavy. Now that's unfortunate. That is very, very unfortunate. The fight, I believe, was for the WBO Interim Light Middleweight Championship. One would presume, well, certainly Liam Smith at least has lost the opportunity to fight for that belt. Let's hope it's still on the line for Liam Williams. If you know the answer to that, if you can clarify that, please drop your comment in the section below. But for Liam Smith, that opportunity to fight for the WBO Interim World title has gone. Similarly, there was talk that the winner of this fight would get a matchup with Miguel Cotto. I never truly bought into that. I always thought that was very unrealistic, but presumably that is gone from Liam Smith as well. You also have to factor in that Liam Smith purposely took a 4-rounder in an apparent bid to be able to fight for this vacant title, or this interim title, should I say. So that whole of that stress of flying out to Spain and having a 4-rounder, which is something you never really want to do so close to a fight, you know, when you're preparing for another fight, all of that was wasted effort, because the reason he did that was so that he wasn't coming into the fight off a loss, because he wouldn't have been able to fight for the WBO interim belt coming off a loss. So he took a pointless 4-rounder in Spain in order to get himself that position, and now by not making weight, all of that effort was wasted. Now Liam Smith could say he was able to get rid of some ring rust and get some rounds under his belt, so fair enough. I guess that is a counter argument, but very, very, very disappointing from Liam Smith to miss weight. There's a number of reasons being speculated as to why this has happened. Is it the Canelo payday? Is Liam Smith now financially comfortable for life? And has he potentially lost some of his grit and some of his desire, having had that much financial security bestowed upon him from that Canelo fight? Has that perhaps made him overlook Liam Williams? Or is it a case of arrogance? Is it not necessarily a case that he's got, stupidly comfortable because of the Canelo fight? Is it more that having been a world champion and having been in a a fight against a superstar like Canelo Alvarez, he's now overlooking a guy like Liam Williams, who, he maybe saw in a life and death battle with Gary Corcoran? Is he, is Liam Smith now completely overlooking Liam Williams? That's another question. But I do think this is very, very negative. I really do. Who knows what efforts Liam Smith went to make the weight? Now it's very, very possible him and Joe Gallagher had a discussion after the fight, after the weigh-in, and sort of said to each other, look, it's best we don't even attempt to make this weight. That may well have been the case, I don't know. But it's also possible that, Liam Smith was doing cardio, Liam Smith was in a sauna. It's also possible, that he was trying to sweat off that weight, trying to dehydrate, trying to make the cut. And if that was the case, then this is, for me, highly negative going into a big fight tomorrow, because, even though it's only 2 pounds, when you're pretty dry, and he looked pretty dry to me at the weigh-in, and when you're already at a low weight to begin with, to try and cut extra pounds so close to a fight can only be a negative. I'm not saying it's necessarily going to cost Liam Smith the fight, but it's certainly a negative. I think Liam Williams has a right to feel aggrieved here. Smith certainly is a bigger man to begin with, and now he's going to be coming in 2 pounds heavier, and Liam Williams may be considering in his head, will he be able to take punches slightly better? Will Liam Smith be able to hit slightly harder based on the fact he's carrying that extra weight? I think he's got a right to be aggrieved. I wonder if there'll be some, financial penalty bestowed upon Liam Smith that will maybe be to the benefit of Liam Williams. Because if Liam Williams was to suffer his first career defeat in a very, very close fight here, he'll probably think that that £2 difference, that £2 extra made a difference, which would be very, very unfortunate in a fight of this nature. And as I say, I hope that for Liam Williams, at least, that WBO interim light middleweight shot is still available. It would be very unfortunate for him if Liam Smith missing the weight meant that didn't happen. I don't know whether or not that would be the case. Sometimes Paul Smith, I think Paul Smith, Liam Smith's brother, needs to be reminded of a few things here. Paul Smith was very, very, very critical of Rocky Fielding when he missed weight previously. He put, the bottom line is Fielding weighed 12 stone 6, and that's totally unprofessional. That's a problem for any future fight. It's all very well Eddie Hearn saying it's a huge fight for Liverpool, but if he did that, he would get a huge fine, and I don't think he'd be mandatory challenger after that. So, Paul Smith cut into Rocky Fielding for missing weight historically. Who can forget Paul Smith then missed weight himself and was fined almost $40,000 for being overweight when he went to fight Andre Ward in the States. And now his brother Liam Smith has missed weight. And Liam Smith isn't a particularly big light middleweight. This is a problem for Liam Smith if he's missing weight at this stage of his career, because he's not an overly big light middleweight. I actually thought he looked relatively slender in the ring compared to Canelo. Obviously, Canelo's a very, very big guy at the weight, and Canelo cuts a huge amount of weight, we know that. But yeah, I don't think Liam Smith is the biggest light middleweight. He may be bigger than Liam Williams, but Liam Williams is probably a small light middleweight. And if he's missing weight at this stage of his career, you wonder in a year or two's time whether we'll be seeing Liam Smith campaigning at middleweight. And fundamentally, I believe he's too small to have success at middleweight. I believe with his style, being a presser fighter, being a stalker, having a size advantage and being certainly strong at the weight is key. And I think that he'd look very, very small, especially if you stuck him against some of the bigger guys who've been campaigning at 160, the likes of Chris Eubank Jr., the likes of Martin Murray, those sort of names, really. So, interesting and unexpected this. For me, it is a disappointment. It is a disappointment, and whatever the result of this fight, I'm kind of going to be wondering now whether this had an impact on it. If Liam Williams wins, I'm kind of going to be wondering, has Liam Smith maybe overlooked the fight? Has he got comfortable after the Canelo windfall? Has he been too arrogant because he believes Liam Williams is a level below him? If Liam Smith wins the fight, you wonder, has that extra weight given him a little advantage in terms of power? Has that extra weight given him a little advantage in terms of punch resistance, or not having to cut down to the exact fight weight? Has that maybe bolstered his chances a little bit? So I do think it's unfortunate. I always think when a fighter misses weight, it's unprofessional, and unfortunately it is a bit of a black mark in the event, and that's certainly the case in this fight for me. So leave your comments below. Let me know your take on that. Do you think why do you think Liam Smith missed the weight? Do you think it's an advantage or a disadvantage going in? Do you think that he maybe tried to make the weight and failed, which could be very detrimental? Or do you think him and Joe Gallagher have kind of had a look at it and thought, best not to even try making the weight so close to the fight, given that you've missed weight first time round? But that's just my thoughts, so let me know your comments below. A quick word on Daniel Dubois, who's fighting a guy, potentially the guy's name is Marcus Kelly. Dubois looks like a very, very, very well-built chap. His physique kind of reminds me of like a Frank Bruno type physique. He's a very naturally well-muscled guy. He seemed to be carrying, don't get me wrong, he's in fantastic shape. He's not quite as ripped as Anthony Joshua. The six-pack isn't quite as gleaming as Joshua's, but he's kind of that ilk in terms of the bodybuilder style physique, massive chest, massive back, big thick arms, etc. Now, when it was first announced that he was fighting on this bill, the proposed opponent was David Howe, who most fight fans will be most aware of because of his recent matchup with David Allen. David Howe's a big 6'8", something like that, heavyweight, really, really, really big guy. A guy with a semi-respectable record, especially for a debut. So, at the time, I gave Daniel Dubois a bit of credit for taking David Howe as an opening opponent. This guy he's fighting tomorrow, I mean, you have to look at the weigh-in footage to believe it. You really do have to look at the weigh-in footage to believe it. And if you haven't seen the weigh-in footage, I'd probably recommend doing that for a cheap laugh. But you've got to ask yourself, where on earth did they find this guy? I mean, he is he outweighs Daniel Dubois by half a stone, and he's a midget. And I don't know how tall he is. He looked to me to be substantially under 6 foot. I haven't box ripped him. I understand he's only had one fight. But you know, maybe he's 5'9", 5'10", something like that. And he was kind of looking up at Dubois like this, and he kind of had a, you know, to look at him, he looks like he's been like a sailor who's been at sea for the last 6 months. You know, he hasn't had a haircut, he hasn't saved his facial hair, etc. So, you know, a very, very, very bizarre looking chap. And I know image isn't everything. I know muscles don't win wars. And I've been the first one here saying, don't think Anthony Joshua is the best thing since sliced bread just because he's got a six-pack. But when the size difference between the two is so obvious, when it's clear that one of them is a conditioned athlete and one of them is a conditioned competitive eater, you know, you've really, really, really got to question how good a matchup it is. So I think, unfortunately, Daniel Dubois has gone from having a very, very good debut against David Howe to having a debut that, you know, I'm still interested to see him, but as a spectacle, it's a bit of a laughing stock against this this chap. Let me know your thoughts on that as well. Drop your comments in the section below. If you've enjoyed the video, take the time to hit the thumbs up button, which helps get me extra visibility on the channel. If you're new and you haven't done so before, please press subscribe. And as I say, I'll be back Monday, probably Monday afternoon, evening time, with some post-fight reaction to the fights this weekend. Hope everyone has a good weekend and enjoy the fights, guys.